This episode of the ToKnight Show is to die for. We'll scare you with some scary stories, give you the weekly announcements, wrap up the fall sports and music season, check in with the bowling team and one-act cast, help you create a scary Halloween costume, and play a game. So let's get scary. This is based on a true story. I was a pharmacy technician at a hospital with the psych ward for some time. We would have to go around with the cart and dispense the patient's medications. I never had any real issues, other than the occasional death grip on my arm or maniac outburst. But there was one boy who was entirely different. His chart said he was 9, and he had pale skin, dark hair, and huge bright green eyes. He always greeted me in the most polite way, asked how my day was doing, and always found something different to compliment me on. He was extremely well-spoken and mature for his age, so I began looking forward to seeing him, as normal small talk is definitely cherished in that setting. If he saw me outside of his room in the halls, he made sure to say hello, and always called me Mrs. Jones or ma'am. One day, a couple of our female nurses saw me pause to chat with him in the hallway, and waved me over and asked me if I was out of my mind. Apparently, when he was in kindergarten, he grew an intense attachment to his young female teacher. This escalated to the point of him calling her mom and leaving her notes about how much he wished he were her son. He had a normal home life with both parents, and the teacher tried to explain to him that she could not be his mom because that would hurt his real mom's feelings, and she already had the job covered. That night, he went home and killed his own mother in her sleep so his teacher could be his mom.
It was Saturday night. My parents were out on a date and I was watching my little brother. He was getting hungry and I decided to make him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich to calm him down. It was pouring outside, lightning crashing, thunder booming. The dogs were barking and freaking out. The TV was just static. I was losing my mind. I walked to the kitchen with my little brother on my hip, dragging the supplies out to make him food. I set him in his chair. Lightning crashed. With the booming of the thunder scaring me, I dropped the strawberry jelly. I thought to myself, crap, that's his favorite jelly. He won't eat the sandwich if it didn't have strawberry jelly. I pick up the glass and realize that there's enough in the bottom of the jar to use on a sandwich. Lightning crashes again. Now my little brother is crying. I finish the sandwich, putting the rest of the supplies away. I turn around to grab the sandwich. It's gone. I look at my little brother who is losing his mind wanting the sandwich. I looked everywhere. I was looking under the table when the loud thunder crashed. I smack my head against the table and my little brother screams bloody murder. There was the sandwich holding the knife to his cheek. Everything goes black and then I wake up. Only just a nightmare, I thought to myself. I look around my room calming down, but the little sliver of light creeping into my room from my wooden door said different. I saw the silhouette of the killer sandwich coming for me. Luckily, we aren't having killer sandwiches this week for lunch. Monday, we're having cheeseburger meatloaf. Tuesday is pizza. Wednesday is chili and cinnamon rolls. Thursday is ham patty melt or PB&J. Friday, super nachos.
The Licked Hand. A beautiful young girl is left home alone with only her dog to protect her. On the news that night, they announce there's a serial killer on the loose in the area. Before she goes to bed, she locks all the doors and tries to lock all the windows. But the one in the basement won't lock. She decides to leave it unlocked but locks the basement door and goes to bed. Her dog takes its place beside her bed. In the middle of the night, she wakes up to a dripping sound coming from her bathroom. Half awake, the girl feels the comforting lick from her dog and falls back asleep. She wakes up again to the dripping sound, reaches her hand down to the dog where she feels a reassuring lick, and falls back asleep. Once more, she wakes up to the dripping sound, reaches her hand down, and feels the lick of her dog. Now curious, the girl gets up and slowly walks to the bathroom. The dripping sound gets louder as she approaches. She reaches the bathroom and turns on the light. She is greeted by a horrific sight. Hanging from the shower nozzle is her dog, its blood dripping into the bathtub. With something on the bathroom mirror catches her eye. She turns around. Written on the wall in her dog's blood are the words, "Humans can lick too." All hands on deck. The bowling team is gearing up for another season.
I interviewed the bowling coach, Mr. Couture, to hear his thoughts about the team this year. My first question for him was, how did the team do last year? They improved from the first meet to districts, and overall in the state, we were the smallest school and finished 37th out of the 42 schools. My second question was, will it be more beneficial now that more people are going out for the team? It will be because there's much more competition, which will make our district team stronger. My last question was, what's your biggest goal for the team this year? to beat another team at districts and not get last place.
Home alone. You are home alone and you hear on the news about a profile of a murderer who is on the loose. You look out the sliding glass doors to your backyard and you notice this man standing out in the snow. He fits the profile of the murderer exactly, and he is smiling at you. You gulp, picking up the phone to your right and dialing 911. You look back in the glass as you press the phone to your ear and notice he is much closer to you now. You then drop the phone in shock. There are no footprints in the snow. It's his reflection. When you check your reflection this Halloween, you'll want a great costume looking back at you.
For the first look, we have risky business. All you need is a white button-down shirt, black shorts or spandex, white socks, and sunglasses.
For the second look, we have Minnie Mouse. We just went to Walmart and this cost $20, so bam, costume.
For the third look, we chose to be a meme. All you need is a mannequin head, only $5 at Hobby Lobby, and a big hoodie.
For the last look, we have something extra spooky, a ghost. It's so easy, you just need a white sheet and you can cut holes for eyes.
The minister's daughter had just gotten married. After the wedding ceremony, there was a great feast with music and dancing and contests and games. Even old children's games. When they got to playing hide and seek, the bride decided to hide in her grandfather's trunk up in the attic. They'll never find me there, she thought. As she climbed into the trunk, the lid came down and cracked her on the head, and she fell unconscious inside. The lid slammed shut and locked. No one will ever know how long she called for help or how hard she struggled to free herself from that tomb. Everyone in the village searched for her, and they looked almost everywhere, but no one thought of looking in the trunk. After a week, her brand new groom and all the others gave her up for lost. Years later, a maid went up to the attic looking for something she needed. Maybe it's in the trunk, she thought. She opened it and screamed. There lay the missing bride in her wedding dress, but by then she was only a skeleton. Let's unpack the trunk and get the costumes ready for one act.
For one act this year, the play is Lemonade Standoff. It's about a little girl trying to sell lemonade, but new neighbors and bullies down the street prove to be a challenge. Practice is going extremely well, and we're very far along. We're even on time, and everyone is looking forward to our very first performance this Saturday at Gothenburg.
On today's episode of The ToKnight Show, we will play a Halloween-themed game of Who's Who. The contestants will be placed in groups of 2 and seated back to back. The contestants will then be read a series of questions, and the contestants are allowed to answer only with the name of either person in their group. If both individuals in a group answer with the same name, they will be awarded a point. If their answers vary, they will not be awarded a point. In the event of a tiebreaker, the contestants will no longer be restricted to just their names. They may answer with anything. The contestants will then be asked a question or a series of questions, and the first group to answer with the same results will win. All right. Question 1. Who gets scared more easily? One point for the freshmen. 1 point for the sophomores. No points for the upperclassmen. All right. Question 2. Who would carve the best jack-o'-lantern? One point for the freshmen. 1 point for the seniors. 1 point for the juniors. And for the sophomores, I guess. All right. Question 3. Who has the biggest sweet tooth? One point for the freshmen. No point for the sophomores. 1 point for the juniors. No points for the seniors. Woo. All right. Question 4. Who can eat more pumpkin pie? 1 point for the sophomores. 1 point for the freshmen. 1 point for the seniors. Come on, juniors. No, 1 point for the juniors. Everybody got it. What's that scorecard look like? Freshmen are in the lead. All right. Question 5. Who would get lost in a corn maze? Yes. No points for the freshmen. 1 point for the seniors. 1 point for the sophomores. 1 point for the juniors. All right. Freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, they're all tied up. Seniors are behind by 1. Question 6. Who would die first in a scary movie? One point for the freshmen. 1 point for the sophomores. 1 point for the juniors. 1 point for everybody. What's it look like? All right. These 3 teams, freshmen, sophomore, juniors, are all tied with 5 points. Seniors are still behind by 1. If you 3 miss it and the seniors get it, it will be all tied. Anyways, question 7. Who would most likely be a serial killer? One point for the freshmen. 1 point for the juniors. 1 point for the sophomores. Come on, seniors, let's go. Yeah, you guys lost anyways. Well, no points for the seniors. All right. So, see that scorecard. All right, seniors, you are all right. And the question for the tiebreaker round is, what is the scariest Halloween costume? And nobody got it. Clown. She put clown. All right. Our next question. What is the best Halloween candy? Oh, dang it. You'll be all right, Vim. Oh, the freshmen win! The freshmen are victorious. The freshmen have won the Halloween version of Who's Who on the ToKnight Show. Good night. Everyone in our little Halloween town celebrated Halloween when I was a child. No decorations were ever put up. Nobody ever threw parties, but the stores would all be sold out of candy come the big night. It had been that way ever since the dead in our town started coming back on Halloween, years before I was born. Corpses would claw their way out of their graves, wandering the streets and carrying makeshift bags fashioned from their burial clothes. Zombies always craved brains in the movies, but in our town, all they wanted was candy. My mother once told me that some of the townsfolk fought back when it all first began. Those families didn't last long, and none of them remained. Ever since, people gave their candy to the restless dead, leaving none for us kids. I was 11 the year my older brother decided to go trick-or-treating. He crept into my room, and I would have screamed had he not clamped his hand over my mouth. His face was a horror show, his features a rotting mess. He seemed pleased at my petrified reaction to his makeup, and he smiled crookedly. I asked him what he was doing, dreading the answer, and he told me he was going to get enough candy for the both of us. Our parents were focused on placiding the hungry dead, and they had no idea as my brother snuck out of my bedroom window while I begged him to stay. I watched him shamble away into the night, moaning convincingly as he mingled with the sea of walking dead. I didn't see him again till next year. I heard the telltale scratching of a corpse at the door, and I opened it to find my lost brother standing on my front porch. His makeup had washed away long ago, but his face was more gruesome than I remembered. A dirt cake lollipop was stuck in what remained of his hair, and he handed out his bloody shirt and groaned at me, his cloudy eyes showing no recognition. I said nothing as I dropped a handful of candy into his jerry-rigged bag. He turned and shuffled slowly down the driveway, and I watched him go with a pang of sadness. At last, I knew how his night of trick-or-treating went all those months ago. I closed the door softly and sighed, comforting myself with the fact that I would see him again next Halloween. And just as this boy's Halloween is over for another year, so is the fall sports and music seasons.
This is a fall wrap-up in sports. Volleyball is going into sub-districts with a record of 12 and 13. Football's final record is 2 and 6. Cross country's personal best, Savannah with a time of 12:06, Brittany with a time of 25:21, Jason with a time of 23, and Miles with a time of 22:17. The team average is 24:11. The bowling season is just started.
Two dormmates in college were in the same science class. The teacher had just reminded them about the midterm the next day when one dormmate, let's call her Julie, got asked to this big bash by the hottest guy in school. The other dormmate, Meg, had pretty much no interest in going, and, being a diligent student, she took notes on what the midterm was about. After the entire period of flirting with her date, Julie was totally unprepared for her test, while Meg was completely prepared for a major study date with her books. At the end of the day, Julie spent hours getting ready for the party, while Meg started studying. Julie tried to get Meg to go, but she was insistent that she would study and pass the test. The girls were rather close, and Julie didn't like leaving Meg alone to be bored while she was out having a blast. Julie finally gave up, using the excuse that she would cram in homeroom the next day. Julie went to the party and had the time of her life with her date. She headed back to the dorm around 2 a.m. and decided not to wake Meg. She went to bed nervous about the midterm and decided she would wake up early to ask Meg for help. She woke up and went to wake Meg. Meg was lying on her stomach, apparently sound asleep. Julie rolled Meg over to reveal Meg's terrified face. Julie, concerned, turned on the desk lamp. Meg's study stuff was still open and was covered in blood. In horror, Julie fell to the floor and looked up to see written on the wall in Meg's blood, "Aren't you glad you didn't turn on the light?" We will turn off the light on another episode of The ToKnight Show. Have a great Halloween, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
That's all for this episode. I hope you have a spooktacular Halloween.